Welcome to the Middle Ageish podcast, authentically and unapologetically keeping it real, discussing all things middle-age-ish, a time when metabolism slows and confidence grows. Join fashion and fitness entrepreneur Ashley Badowski, former Celtic woman and founder of the Lisa Kelly Voice Academy, Lisa Kelly, licensed psychologist and mental health expert, Dr. Pam Wright, and highly sought-after cosmetic injector and board-certified nurse practitioner, Trisha Kennedy Roman. Join your hosts on the journey of Middle Ageish.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Middle Ageish Podcast. I'm Trisha Kennedy Roman, and I'm joined here today with my co-host, Ashley Badowski, Lisa Kelly, and Dr. Pam Wright. And we are joined today with Derek Johnson. He is a U.S. Army veteran and also a fitness coach and a mindset coach. And we are really excited to have you here, Derek. So welcome to Middle Ageish Podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure being here. How are you all doing today?
We're doing great. How about you?
Good.
Doing good. Excited for a new month.
I know. Can you believe it's August? I can't. Crazy.
Yeah,
It seems,
it's
just like yesterday, it was January. Yeah.
So we were talking about obviously your history and what you do now. One thing I was curious about is you're obviously very disciplined, and in the Army, thank you for your service, by the way.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
But I was curious if obviously the Army is very disciplined, and if your discipline came from being in the Army, or if you were so disciplined before that you decided to join the Army because you were so disciplined.
Yeah. What's your story?
Yeah, great question. I appreciate it. So my father was U.S. Army. He was in the Army for 23 years, and my mother's German. So my mother was a kindergarten teacher. And if you know much about Germans, they're very gung-ho, very disciplined, borderline OCD. So I had the drill sergeant, African-American, 6'3" dad, and then the 5'4" German mother who was hyper aggressive. So that was my upbringing. We lived in Pensacola, Florida at that time, which is the panhandle of Florida. At 4 or 5 a.m., I saw them exercising. My dad would go run or would go to PT. My mother would be doing Tai Bo or workouts in the pool. I grew up seeing that so naturally, growing up, waking up early, training the body, praying, visualizing, meditating, all that came natural. That's just what I saw 365 days a year. So on the outside, we had the disciplined parents, the disciplined kids. I was the youngest of three. I'm the only son, so I had two older sisters. So in regards to the Army, I followed my father's footsteps, but I did not want to retire from the Army. I just wanted to use it in regards to degrees, certifications, and not have any college debt. So zero college debt, which I always wanted. I didn't want the other side. No offense to anybody that does, but
no. Everyone has their reason.
Oh yeah. So from the outside, successful family, kids that were focused, AB honor roll, all that. So that was what everybody saw on the outside. They would see the beautiful home, screened-in pool in Florida, close to the beach and all that, mixed family, just all this different culture being around the world. But after the cookouts and parties, the alcohol would take over and the aggression, anger, or past insecurities or trauma would get let out on the son, which now in hindsight, that was my cheat code for what I do now and being able to connect with people. But dealing with that quote unquote trauma, that was a blessing in disguise back then. So flipping that pain into fuel. So I don't know what it was, but I feel like God, whatever somebody wants to believe in, blessed me with the ability with perspective. So I would perspective hop and wonder, what did my mom go through when she was a child? What did my dad go through? So while they were screaming in rage, being drunk or whatever was happening between the hours of 9 p.m. to 2 a.m., about 350 days a year, that's what would happen between the age of 11 to 17 once I moved out. So dealing with that set me up for success in the military because having drill sergeants in your face was nothing because I'm used to a German mother in my face, screaming, yelling, doing whatever. And my father was, I was like, oh, this is a walk in the park.
Right.
Wow.
So with that being said, that paved the way for me to really work on myself. So at 11 and 12 years old, I was listening to Tony Robbins' cassette tapes. I know you all are pretty much my age, so you know about cassette tapes. So my father had those. And I would listen to them in my 8-track and then the CDs. And then after that, I would watch the DVDs. And that really helped me, Les Brown, and then also opening up my Bible. So I realized that I had to mature and grow up quick. But I was never the type that would tell anybody about anything because I never wanted to ruin their reputation. So nowadays, it's just part of the story. But back then, I never told my friends, never told family, never said a word. I would just show up to school, be happy, and try to help people as much as I could. because being out of the beautiful home was my peace.
Right.
When my friends would come over, they're like, wow, this house is massive. You guys have a pool. You guys have this. But I would never say anything. I was like, yeah, man, whatever you need, Southern hospitality. But I never wanted to complain, because what I would do, I would just read biographies, and watch movies of men and women that went through things that were much worse. So I always would minimize my situation. I wouldn't pretend that the situation didn't exist, but I would just say it could be worse. It could be worse. I have my limbs. We have a roof over our head. I have multiple bedrooms I could sleep in. I have food. I have water, nourishment. So that always humbled myself. So that's the backstory on that. And that paved the way for me to get into the military and to do personal training and coaching. So just life experiences paved the path to be where I am today.
Yeah. I think that's amazing that you had such self-awareness at such a young age, to be honest, and to find a positive in such a way where you, like you were talking about, like the cassette tapes and who you were listening to and what you were reading at that age. I mean, I think that's amazing.
Well, I think 11 and 12-year-olds now would be playing Fortnite and definitely not listening to Tony Robbins. So I find that
exactly.
impressive.
I mean, they would probably go in a completely different way. I mean, we've seen it, we've heard it, or whatever. But wow, I mean, that's amazing self-awareness and just inner character coming out at such a young age, and just again going back to being just self-aware. So
I appreciate it, and I really do think that people that have all been through the darkest things, whether it was on mother's side or father's side, they can relate to people the most. So what I noticed in school is I was always the quiet kid. I wasn't shy. I was just quiet because I never slept. Like I wouldn't go to sleep till like 2 a.m. So that helped me with the military, because I would have to wait on the wild parents to go to sleep.
Right.
And then I had a moment of peace. I could watch my show. I could do whatever I did. And then I would get a couple hours of sleep, and then I would leave as early as possible. Whatever time the school bus came, I would be out there 30 minutes to an hour before, just to be out of the house. So my friends would be like, man, you're always here. I'm like, yeah, it's a military mode, military. And I would just overshadow it. Like, yeah, discipline. But in my head, I was like, I don't want to be in there right now.
Yeah.
But moving forward that was just a blessing. So I've always lived by the term that people depend on me. So out loud and in my head, when I wake up, I always say to myself, people depend on me. When I don't want to get out of bed, when I don't want to get on another coaching call, sales call, do whatever I need to do.
Right.
I always think of that, because we're all here for a reason. And if we think of others, our kids, our family, whoever depends on us, we get another rush inside of us where we can operate on minimal sleep, minimal food, minimal water. We get a lot of stuff done, and it's surprising what happens when we simply think of others. So that's something that I've always thought about. And I'm not saying to neglect ourselves, but I just realized that I loved the interaction of people. The reason why, just to be transparent, is the phrase "I love you" was not said in my home or my family. So that is why I was the best friend to all my friends. I was the DD in high school and college. I was the father of the group, the leader on the basketball team, the coach, all that, because I always wanted to take care of everybody. So when you're lacking something, you want to give it more. Or on the flip side, some people, they just
repeat the cycle. Right. Yeah. They're just in the cycle, but
I never wanted to repeat it. So I would just consume a lot of information of people that went through worse. And I would just remind myself, hey, it could be worse. Don't complain. God has you for a reason. God has you here for a reason. Just keep pushing and keep learning and trying to help others.
Oh my goodness. Amazing. I know, finding your purpose so young. And we talk about that on multiple episodes of when in your life you find that purpose, because, I love the saying, when you find your purpose, you find your peace. But just to have it, again, having it at such a young age is such, I mean, that's just so amazing.
So when you're coaching, we were talking earlier about just how your body changes in middle age and how, things don't work out the same and we can't exercise the same. And I was like, are we using our age as an excuse with your coaching clients, and you're especially in middle age, because we're Middle Ageish podcast? What do you find are like the biggest challenges? And do you think that sometimes that we're using our age as an excuse for staying fit?
I would say, so here's an example. I have some clients that are 70 and older, and they're all in my training app. So they're very tech savvy. They have no issues. And then I have some clients that are in high school and college that they struggle with the training app.
Yeah.
And like when I'm not on a call, I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. I don't say anything to them, but I'm like, come on, just connect this, click this. I'm like, I give it straight.
Oh, that would be me. That would be me.
So as a friend, I guide them through it. But as just a human, like just Derek in general, he's like, holy, like what is going on right now? Like I have the perfect example. So I can say from my experience, at least, I don't have the age as an excuse. It's more so limiting beliefs that were placed on them from family, friends, coworkers, professors, whoever was in their life at one point that said, you cannot do this. You're a woman, you're a blonde, you're half black, you're half white, like whatever anybody heard, they ride that long term and they don't realize that they're riding that statement or opinion and it's holding them back or crippling them in their own professional field, relationships or friendships. So that's one thing that I really like to focus deep on is where did this pain, trauma, or bad pattern happen? Where did it start? Mm-hmm. So we pinpoint that first, and then we aim to break that. Because when I first got into personal training, I never wanted to be the clipboard coach. I never wanted to be Kyle at LA Fitness, who's just like, oh yeah, with the clipboard.
Yeah, we're just gonna check this off.
Great job.
Yeah, exactly.
Good job. Out of that.
Exactly. Like their clients look the same the entire year. They just keep paying them. I never wanted to be that guy because I saw it. So what would happen, what inspired me to get into life coaching is I would see clients months to years after the fact that we trained together online or in person, and they would lose their results. There's a part of me that would be annoyed with them, but internally I knew it was my fault. Mm-hmm. I did not give them the tools mentally to succeed long-term. So that's what inspired me to go with life coaching certification so I can make that psychological shift. Mm-hmm. Because from there, nowadays, I have less clients that ever go backwards, physically, spiritually, mentally, financially, because we pinpoint where this actually came from, because it's always deeper than I want a bigger butt. I want abs. I want to lose 20 pounds.
Right.
Jimmy was bullied since he was 12. He was called the fat kid. Susie was bulimic at 16 because this guy dumped her. Like there's always something deeper. Right. So we try to pinpoint on that. But the most important part, we don't ride that. Mm-hmm. Nothing against therapy, but I have worked with a lot of people that had the same therapist for 5+ years. Mm-hmm. And in my head, from a coaching standpoint, I'm like, but you haven't really gotten anywhere. It's great to express yourself. It's great to cry. It's great to let it out. But where are the results? Like 5 years. And then we work together for a matter of weeks or months and they make a major shift in their life. And that is the difference. We focus on strategy and results rather than every Tuesday talking about what happened to you at 12 years old. And you're like, oh goodness, it's 8 a.m. I got to put myself in this dark place again, but I'm not really making changes. So that's one thing I always want to focus on is change on the psychological level rather than just the fitness.
Yeah, I'm a psychologist, but I agree with you. I think that you really have to clear whatever, if you have a discrete trauma, that's a very different issue that you're dealing with versus, just like, oh, I don't want to get up in the morning and go work out. So it's very different, but you really have to clear that trauma before you can move forward and truly make change, because otherwise you're right, you'll always go backwards.
Exactly.
I think that's really cool because I think that that's very different from personal trainers who are working on your fitness. And then you really combine in what's holding you back. I think that's really unique, I think, as far as any personal trainers I work with. We've talked about okay, make sure you do these reps and different things like that. We've not talked about, okay, what's been holding you back or why are you not wanting to get up at 6 a.m. and work out,
But it's true because people come in and they're like, oh, I haven't done it. Or, or even as a psychologist, I'll give homework and they'll come in and hey, I didn't do anything.
It's all tied together.
Okay, well, why?
Yeah.
Right. So there's some reason underlying that's there. Right.
It's amazing to see coaching going that way, though. I'm a vocal coach. My husband's a dance coach as well. And I've always kind of tried to do that with the kids, especially with kids that, you're trying to get them to use their voice in a different way or get them to sing and be confident. And you can't just teach that. There's so much more.
There's layers.
There's layers to why are you scared? Who's told you can't sing? And honestly, I've seen so much in the last couple of years, mainly, I think actually since probably COVID, that you're seeing a lot of coaching is going that way, that it's as much about the mind coaching as it is about the physical coaching. And it's so refreshing to hear other people say
because
that.
I think it's so important, but you don't think about it.
No.
You think that that's completely separate. But then when we're talking about, what you've said and your experiences, it actually makes so much sense that it's all tied together and it's just woven together. Yeah. You just have always I know for myself, it's always been completely separate. Okay, we're going to work out. but then there's issues that pull in from other things that affect that. And it's all about just how you respond to anything in your life, whether it's workout, it's friends, or, what all. It's all interwoven together.
Yeah, I think this is really unique because we have very different professional backgrounds. I mean, I work in plastic surgery, you fitness, you psychology, you
five different scenarios.
I know, right?
But it all ties together because I mean, that happens with me too. I mean, sometimes I see people that I'm like, what's really going on? Why are you winning this? And so this is the first time I've actually realized that all of our professions kind of tie into to the mental aspect as well.
But we say every time is like our podcasts actually are really good for us, like in very selfish reasons, because we learn so much. Like we're learning tonight. Cause again, I'm going back going like, oh my gosh, it all ties together. Like it's just one big tapestry and you got to figure it out. But yeah, like, I mean, I know I always go home and I'm like, I just had a therapy session. This is amazing.
It's like Stranger Things. It's all connected.
It's all connected.
Oh yeah. Everything is connected. So one thing, like from a marketing standpoint, it's really hard to explain on social media what I do. I've honestly always hated the term life coach, but I love the phrase or the tagline. I help people take control of their mind and their body. It's very straightforward, but that's how I try to explain it. And I do everything one-on-one. Some people do group settings. I've done group boot camps in the past in college and in the Army and all that. That was great. But after the fact, I would see the guys drunk at the bar, doing coke, like just doing all kind of, was like,
right. Making bad choices.
This is great. So I wanted to help people on a deeper level rather than just surface level. Right now it's summer. Everybody wants to be in shape and get attention, take pics for social media. That's great. But why do they want to take these pictures?
Right.
Are they trying to get this guy? Is she trying to make so-and-so jealous? There's always something deeper. Is somebody just trying to show their hard work? There's always differences. But that's always been my favorite thing is pinpointing, number one, why did they start this pattern? What caused it? And then from there, peeling back the layers so then they can start to thrive and not just barely feel like they're surviving. Because some of my clients are highly successful financially, but then they're morbidly obese. On the flip side, they're shredded, but they're broke. And then we have another one that is financially stable, in great shape, but their friendships and relationships lack because they're so gung-ho with everything else that they can't communicate.
Right.
So we always try to pinpoint what part is lacking the most. That's what we give the most attention to. Because if she's already been an athlete, we can make minor tweaks with her workouts and talk about calls, but why has she had 15 breakups in the last 3 years? Why is she still on a dating app? And no offense if anybody's on a dating app.
We get it.
Yeah.
So we really try to pinpoint that on a neutral level. And I try to just explain to them, let's just look at this from a neutral standpoint. Don't be angry. Don't be sad at yourself. Just flip yourself inside out and see, what do I really want and what do I really need? Do those things coincide? Are they totally different? Am I doing this because of social media clout? Do I want more likes? Am I trying to find my dream wife, my dream man, whatever the case may be? But those real conversations, a lot of people, they use vices to ignore the real conversations. So I love having those real one-on-one conversations rather than just like, hey, Friday's coming up, Saturday's coming up, let's go drink, let's go do that. What are they celebrating? Because a lot of people, they're just trying to escape the reality of their current situation.
Yeah. So how do you like start your sessions with people? So if somebody wants to come to you for training, do you work on the physical with the mental, emotional together, or how do you do that?
Great question. So the first thing I do, I just learn about them, their schedule, their routine, their sleep patterns, all of that. And then from there, we see what time is best for Susie to work out. She loves night workouts. The gym is empty. Jimmy, he loves early morning workouts like myself. So I never push time of day or never push a certain eating habit or anything. I pinpoint their schedule, their routine, if they have kids, if they're single, and all those things. Once we have that said, the first thing I do with everyone is ask them, what can we eliminate, get rid of, or simply replace that's going to help you get more progress? So example one, it could be nutrition. Maybe 8 p.m. to midnight, they're in and out of the pantry and the fridge watching Netflix, and they don't realize that they had like 40 grams of sugar, 100 grams of carbs, 5 nights a week. And they're like, no wonder I'm not losing weight. It's between the hours of 8
now
p.m.
it makes sense.
Got it.
They're like, I do great. I eat salads all day. I'm doing whatever, drinking my water, but 8 to 10 p.m., I'm screwing myself. So we pinpoint what could they eliminate? For some, it's nutrition. For some, it's vices like alcohol or drugs. For some, it could be like a sexual or porn addiction. For others, it could be an aggression or lack of communication. So we try to pinpoint what exactly can they get rid of or do less of or simply replace that can help them make more progress. And we do a writing exercise. So we take our time, they write whatever they're comfortable to discuss out loud, they can say it. Usually they do, because the more we start to write, I'm old school about it. Pen to paper has more power than just talking and texting. So from there, once they have clarity, we have 4 different quadrants. What do I want to create? What do I need to get rid of? What can I accept about myself? So I use myself as an example. I accept I cannot change my past. I had highly successful, financially and career-wise successful parents, but they were alcoholics. So between the hours of 9 p.m. to 1 a.m., they had complete rage at me, but I handled it. And that I told my friends, they turned me into a machine. But hey, I don't wish that on anybody, but it worked.
It was your path.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we have accept. What can I accept about myself? Another example could be something as simple as I'm too hard on myself, or maybe people do an age thing. All of my friends are married and have kids or have had XYZ and I don't. Maybe it's something of that nature, FOMO, fear of missing out. So we do that. And then last but not least is, what can I accept about myself? What can I preserve about myself? So I accept I cannot change my past. Then I can preserve my calmness, my peace, my focus, whatever goes in that section. And then we go back up to what they want to create, which is their individual goals. But most important with everyone is we focus on what to get rid of. My intent is not to stack onto your schedule. I never say, hey, take a picture of your pantry, your fridge, and your work schedule. Let's change some shit around. Like, we're not going to do all that. That only works for athletes or military, but 90% of people, that's not going to work for long term. So I always like to focus on long term and eliminate what we can, simply replace. And then from there, slowly, week by week, make some progress. Because with most people, they can pinpoint the 1 or 2 things that's slowing them down the most. If all of us push pride and ego out of the way, we could say, hey, it's drinking. Hey, it's hitting snooze 6 times, whatever it is.
Uh-oh. That would be me. Uh-oh. The snooze. Maybe not.
I know which one.
The snooze, ladies.
That's fun.
I love how you break that into quadrants like that, though, because I was breaking my own quadrants.
I know. I've been sitting here too going, okay, got it. All right.
Yep. Because I think it's important too, how you say, what can I preserve? Because I know working in facial aesthetics, that's one thing when I'm doing a consult, I always will point out, okay, these are the things you want to change, but what's great about you, what's beautiful about you. And so I think that that's good too. I think when you're talking about what do you want to preserve, because obviously you want to make changes, but just to give yourself that confidence of what's great, what you want to preserve about yourself too.
Oh yeah, because at least my whole approach to it is we're never judgmental on the individual to the individual. We never want to be angry at ourselves, never want to be sad. We just want to flip ourselves inside out and say, here I am, here's me, what can we do from here? Yeah. And the more that they do that to themselves, and like I'm calm, I usually just like, hey, I'm gonna do something else while you write. So like no eyes are on them, they can take their time. And once we're done, we break that down. And then from that first conversation, we can pinpoint what needs to be focused on the most, which is usually the eliminate section. Everything in the eliminate section is the most important before we make a major or minimal change to the schedule or the routine. Slowly start to focus on the eliminate, make more progress, build the confidence, and then go from there on a week by week basis. But that's the first thing that I always do with people.
Do you see that people are like super honest and raw right off the bat, or is it something that you kind of work towards?
Great question. So it's definitely something I work towards. So I don't know if you've ever heard of the 4 animal communication styles. You can usually tell real quick what somebody's communication style is. And it's not about horoscopes or personality traits or any of that nature. No offense if somebody's into that. But what it is number 1, the communication style, example 1, animal 1 is the ram. The ram, you can picture a ram. They just hit stuff. So there's 2 examples of every animal. There's a positive trait and an extreme trait. So the ram, the important trait about them, they're open, honest, and blunt. So if you guys are familiar with David Goggins, Andy Frisella, men or women that are just like straightforward, that's them. If you like them or not, like me, I dropped the F-bomb, I dropped this. Some people don't like it, but then they're like, you know what? You're the only one that told me that I've been gaining weight on a one-on-one basis. I'm like, hey, your family watch you slack. I'll speak up because I love you. I just want to see you win. That's always been my intent. So that's number one, is the RAM. On the negative aspect is the RAM can be too gung-ho and they don't know how to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't understand me, I'm going to keep repeating myself until you get it. That's the extreme side of the RAM. So RAMs are awesome leaders, managers, and coaches. But on the extreme side, with an example, that is a lot of the German culture. Just growing up with that, the German mom's
Right.
like,
Yeah.
you're going to understand it. Or the drill
Right.
sergeant dad, blah, 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 no communication, no love language, no nothing. It's just like, it doesn't work for everyone. That's number one. Number two is the grasshopper. The grasshopper, they're always somewhere else, in the future, in the past, creating some fabricated scenario. A simple scenario could be you're at a theme park with a group of your best friends. You guys meet once a year. My favorite thing to do is Halloween Horror Nights in Orlando at Universal. I love the haunted houses with my friends. We meet like 10 of us there. I'm in the front of the line and he's in the back. It's exciting. Everything looks like the movies and the shows. So we're standing in line to get in this. The grasshopper would say, you know what? It'd be really nice to be in Vegas, or it'd be really nice to be hiking in the Alps. Just say some random stuff. Or like, hey, have you tried keto? And everybody's like,
and you're like, are you
that's a
here
good
with
question,
us?
but
Like,
where are we at right now? That is the grasshopper. He or she is never present. So another thing about them, they also talk in circles, and you kind of have to reel him or her back in. You're like, hey, I don't know where we just went. You started with your relationship, then you went to your favorite food, your movie, and this and that. And you're like, what the hell just happened?
Right.
That's the
I
grasshopper.
don't even know where I'm at now. What's going on?
Oh, yeah. So we have the ram, the grasshopper. Number three is a combination. We have the turtle and the snapping turtle. The turtle is what people would refer to as an introvert. They hold things in a lot. They don't really communicate unless they're comfortable with you. They have to know you first before you know anything about them. The snapping turtle, they hold stuff in so long till they boil and then they just snap on everyone. This is the person at the restaurant. I told you no ice in my water. And everybody's like, what the?
Exactly.
And-
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that scenario was just the icing on the cake. They haven't communicated for weeks or months or maybe longer. And that one server just ruined their day, and they make a paragraph rant on Google reviews, and that's them. So that's the snapping turtle. The normal turtle, they just hold things in until they essentially implode. They'll drink more. They get very quiet. They won't respond to the group chat for weeks or months. That's just how they are.
Right.
And then the very last one is the dog. That's the people pleaser. And again, there's two sides to everybody. So the dog, people pleaser, life of the party, the comedic, very positive. But on the flip side, they neglect themselves. If I do more in my relationship, they're going to love me more. If I do more for my client, they're going to do more. Like, they have no boundaries. They just try to give, and they get ran over, used, and abused, and they don't realize it. So how they try to cope, they try to do more nice things. So by the time they start their day, they've called, they've texted everyone that they love or work with, and then they're like, well, shoot, it's 11 a.m. I haven't even started my own thing. And then instead of starting their thing, they keep trying to do things for others. So that's their cycle. But yeah, so going back to your question.
I'm a grasshopper turtle dog.
Yeah. Do we have that where you can have a little bit of
I'm like
everything?
a combination of grasshopper and
Yeah,
turtle dog.
That's a great question. So one thing I challenge people to do is to say that, what are you most dominantly in your personal life?
Right.
And what are you most dominantly in your professional life? There's no right or wrong. But I always start with ourselves. So I teach everyone just to be selfish for a moment. Just, what are you? What is bothering you? So we focus on what we are. And then once we have clarity and awareness, we can read other people. So then I ask them, I'm like, who in your life is a ram on the negative side? They're like, oh, my Uncle Jimmy, that dude, or my boss at my first job. Like, everybody can quickly identify who is who from people they've worked with or know. So from there, they're excited, they have clarity, and then we dive deeper.
Okay.
So it's always about slowly opening, give them some clarity about themselves first, reading others, and then we go from there. That's
Not
just always
making
been
it
my
scary
process.
right
And-
off the front. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah,
I've
so I always
never
go
heard
with that rather than just like, here's where you're at, here's where you want to go. It's going to be a long way to get to this point. Like, I don't go with that approach.
Well, yeah, because I think that anytime, like, I mean, with something like this, like, you come to this stage where you are scared. Like, it's a scary process. Like, you know, internally, okay, I need help. I want to get better. I know I need to move forward in a positive way, or to be my best self. But that first step, I think, is the scariest part, because you don't know if you're going to be judged, or, if someone's going to think, because again, it's all of those insecurities. And I think that the way that you just described it, how you handle it, takes that kind of that scary part off the table so that you can, like you said, move past like that part and then dive in. Because I just know with friends of mine, like that is, and I think with all of us, like we do have that insecurity of being judged, no matter how far we've come in our life and how we've grown as humans and worked to be better or whatever. There's still that moment of being scared and nervous. So I love the way that you described how because that's the first time I've ever heard it described that way. Yeah. And it makes so much sense. And it does take that judgment and that, scared part kind of off the table.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I've always, from one of my mentors, he always taught me in the Army and in martial arts, is both of them always taught me to ask better questions. And whenever they would ask me stuff, I never verbalized what was going on at home. So growing up, I played basketball, ran track, but the main thing that helped my mental health the most was martial arts. I did Tang Soo Do, which is a form of Taekwondo from like elementary to college, and just doing the forms, breaking boards and all that. Less about the fighting and the aggression, was the calmness. I was always just the calm kid. So I would judge all the kids that were like acting crazy. I'm like, why are they acting like that? Like, they have both parents. They have an amazing life. Like, what are you complaining about? So with that being said, is I noticed why these gentlemen and women were so good. They would ask good questions. They already knew the answer. So going back to the animal, the first like 10 seconds speaking to someone individually, I can always tell which one they are. So an example could be the person that's like, that's a grasshopper. Like they're and it is what it is. They need your help the most because you just need them to slow down. Or sometimes I have some clients where like we'll meet twice a week and I'll just let them vent. The first 10 seconds I can tell, oh yeah, she just needs to dump. I had an idea planned, but she just needs to release. Yeah. Then after 15 minutes, I'm like, hey, how do you feel? She's like, I feel great. I was like, all right, so what do you think we should do from here? And then we go from there.
Let's get started.
They usually guide the session, but the most important part as a leader is identifying what does he or she need right now? Because instead of me being gung-ho, we need this and this. Like, no, she's a different Michelle from last Tuesday to today. Just let her release. She can pour into my cup. I'll pour into hers. By the end, a couple hours later, she's like, wow, I needed that. I'm doing well the rest of my day. So being able to push pride and ego aside for a moment and stop being selfish, just show up better for others. But that's one thing that I can definitely say a lot of people that I've met that have been through very traumatic things, they've always been very calm because they've been analyzers. Yeah. Because they always had to watch their back to see if they're going to get hit, yelled at, like they're always like this.
Right. So, you're always on guard.
Exactly. So they're much better just naturally. It's just a skill, is to be aware of reading people, reading situations, reading the room, and then teaching others how to do that as well.
It's amazing. I know it's not realistic. But I always wish that more teachers in schools were a little bit like that with kids, and more coaches that are mentors for children can just see that not everybody is the same and not everybody requires everybody requires something very different in the moment. And I know it's not realistic, but wouldn't it be incredible?
Yeah.
Exactly. To bounce off of that, senior year in high school, nobody except for my English composition teacher noticed I was going through something.
Yeah.
In shape, good grades, scholarships, military, everything was lined up. It was like, oh yeah, blah, blah. And then my English teacher was like, hey, Derek, let's go outside. And I was like, okay. Like at this time, I'd never had a referral in my life, never was arrested. I was like, okay, what's going on? He has a surprise. And then he takes me to the hallway. He closes the door. And in the classroom, they were just like talking. Nobody's even paying attention. And what he said to this day is giving me chills before I even say it is, Derek, it's okay to be human. And I just looked at him and he's like, it's okay to be human. And I was 17 at the time. And I would just like collapse in his arms and cry for like 10 minutes straight. And that was the first time I probably cried in like 5 years.
Right.
All he said was, it's okay to be human, because he could read. He was like, you're there for everybody else.
Into it. Yeah.
So from that day, like every couple months or every couple years, I'll post on Facebook, like, where's Mr. Marlin? His name was Mr. Marlin. If anybody's from Pensacola, Florida. He was amazing at reading that. He was also a preacher as well, which I didn't know until years later. And I was like, that makes sense. He could read people better than others. Where most teachers, they'd just be like, whatever. I'm tired. I'm ready to clock out, go drink, do whatever.
Right.
But going back to what you mentioned earlier, if more teachers could be like Mr. Marlin, that could
Oh
literally
my
change
gosh,
the
it would
world.
be.
To be fair, I think
Okay.
being an English teacher as well, you get to see a little bit more inside people's souls than
Yep.
in any other subject.
That's so true.
But you do,
Writings.
because you're it's expression. So it's the same with kind of music as well. It's an expression as opposed to math. Nobody's going to know from your algebra.
Yeah, that's analytical.
You're struggling.
Yeah.
We're all
Yeah.
struggling at algebra.
That's totally right. I haven't even thought of it because I just thought about the
Yeah.
one-on-one conversation with him. But when I think back to things that I wrote,
Of
he was always
course.
Yes,
like,
like
he put some
he
thought
saw,
into that.
yeah, and he
And-
saw your soul, basically.
Yeah.
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 Like,
That's
I've always
amazing.
loved movies and music. I'm not a musician, not an actor, but like I
You
would
can
always
definitely
express
sing,
myself.
Derek. I keep
Uh-oh.
listening to your voice.
So-
Going, oh my God, that bass baritone voice. He can sing.
So I guess he could see that in the writing.
Yeah.
And I didn't think I was just trying to get a good grade. And he was just like, yeah, you did really well on that. And the older I got, I was like, that was my outlet, was writing and just
Yeah.
speaking in expression, which everybody has their thing. Some sing, some dance, some do whatever. But it's interesting in hindsight looking at it.
Yeah.
That's
So we were
amazing.
talking about before you came on about people nowadays, though, they want that quick fix. They want to take the gummies that are going to make them lose, 10 pounds overnight and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, what do you say, or what do you do to like really motivate people when, it really is the hard work, and you've put in the hard work, and obviously like it shows, and your clients are doing the same thing?
That's a great question. So the first thing I ask them is, how long have you been in the position that you're in? And then I'll just pause and I'll look away because it takes them a while. And then if I feel they're stuck after 20, 30 seconds, then I just ask, I was like, do you think it would be 6 months, 1 year, 2 years? And then I just let them sit in it. And I don't know the answer until they let me know. But once they can pinpoint, if they say more than 2 years, then they have clarity on, before we go back to the I want it now. Then in their subconscious, they're like, wow, I've been in this spot for 4 years. Holy, like whatever their experience is.
Right.
And then we go back to the now, and I say, hey, I'm all about long-term results. I'm not the keto guy. I'm not the Liver King guy. I'm not going to tell you to stuff your face with dry rice and dry chicken. You eat whatever you want. You do whatever. We're just going to make some minor adjustments, but we're thinking long-term. Your longevity is going to be like this. I was like, if you're looking for something like that, I might be your guy. If you want the quick fix, I'm not your guy. If
Right.
you hate the F word, I'm not your guy. And I'm just blown.
I
And
think
they're
it
like,
is.
wow,
I think
nobody's
the
ever
F
said
word
it.
really is the best
Yeah.
word in the English
That's
language.
my favorite
Just-
adjective ever. It's like,
Oh my gosh,
happy,
doesn't
sad,
it-
excited.
I
and,
know,
like,
but isn't it? It's such
any
an
moods.
empowering word. Like, I mean, I know that sounds. You guys know this. It's
Oh,
my
yeah.
favorite word. I feel empowered. It instantly, if I'm happy and I'm going to say it, and if I'm pissed, I'm going to say it. But you completely know, and I feel better.
Our
So,
last interview, I had to do a lot of bleeping and a lot of
All right,
editing.
I mean,
It's a powerful word.
I know
Mhm.
it's a very powerful word.
It
What
is.
other word can you instantly know how someone's feeling?
Oh, yeah.
I don't.
The funny thing about that is I actually have a exercise I do with my clients where we do a visualization, which can control their anxiety. The whole intent, we don't pretend problems, anxiety, stress, trauma don't exist. We don't pretend that we just live in some happy rainbow world. But the intent is, how fast can I go back to being in my equilibrium? Am I too excited for too long because I got a promotion, and 2 days later I'm like, oh, I've been celebrating too long. Now it's time to get back focused. Or have they been down too long? So my challenge to everyone, clients, friends, whoever, is how long will you allow yourself to stay angry, sad, depressed, whatever? So I literally ask people in the moment, which is uncomfortable, but it works. I just say, hey, I understand what's happening right now, but how long do you want to feel this way? And they get caught off guard. I was like, 2 minutes, 10 minutes, or 5 days? And they're like, 10 minutes, because they're pissed off. I'm turning on the timer. And then 2 minutes into it, they start busting out laughing. And they're just like, dang, I never thought about it like that. And then we tap out, and I'm like, hey, I'm glad you laughed, but how long do you normally have your anger? And he or she would be like, 2 hours or 2 days, or my husband's pissed off because you don't have dinner, whatever the scenario is. So that would be a thing. So I talk about the 10-minute rule a lot. Essentially, the 10-minute rule is a negative emotional mentality or situation occurs. You have 10 minutes to get yourself back down or get yourself back up from whatever happened. You can go into your car, grab the steering wheel, and just go like whatever you need to do. Drop the F-bomb for a bit, blast some music. You can go for a walk. You can pray. You can meditate. Whatever's needed in the meantime. What I also suggest is old school, just get grounded, take your shoes and socks off, step into the grass. If you have water near you, look at the sky, follow a bird for 2 minutes straight. Where does it go? Some people are like, oh, that's hippie stuff. But if they actually do it, then they're like,
oh, it works.
It totally
I haven't done this since I was 12. Like,
Yeah,
when was the last time somebody did that? And then with other people, I'm like, when was the last time you went swimming in an ocean, lake, whatever it is that's near you? And they're like, I don't know. And I just challenge them. I'm like, hey, put it in your calendar, just go do it. So whatever the case may be, they have 10 minutes, depending on where they're at and what the scenario is, to get back to equilibrium. But the most important part is we don't pretend these things don't exist, because some of the gurus will say, well, that's a positive thinking and blah, blah, blah. Like, they just, it's too much optimism where it's just like, it's not reality. Like, we're
Right.
really
Like,
It's not real.
That never works.
Exactly.
Positive affirmations
shit
don't work if you
happens,
don't
so we
believe
got to
them.
take
Yep.
control quick.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So,
love
yeah,
that
so-
though. I think that's one of my
Oh my
like
gosh,
hardest
yes.
things if I get my feelings hurt or if I'm in a bad mood. I've Googled it before, like how to get out of a mood. I love that. Like 10 minutes. I have.
I love you. Oh my
But I
gosh,
think I love that 10-minute rule. Because
Oh
I think
my
that
gosh.
I love that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Grounding, centering. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
going back to what you mentioned about the F-bomb, is to get into the 10-minute rule is actually a pattern interrupter, which I would consider, I don't have an air horn, so let's pretend this phone is a mental air horn. So it's to say a pattern interrupter statement. So an example, you don't effing own me. I'm in effing control.
Mhm.
I'm in control, like whatever it is, anything along those lines, and they choose it. I don't create it. They choose whatever just comes to them naturally. So what they could do, they could say that verbally out loud, or they could say it in their head. And then they start their 10-minute thing, visualization, prayer, whatever they want to choose. It's up to them.
Right.
But that is the pattern interrupter. Besides that, is I always recommend people change their physiology first. You four are sitting, I'm at a standing desk, so we would all do the opposite. If I'm feeling a certain way, I would sit down and decompress. You all would stand up, shake your arms, dance, turn on your favorite artist, do whatever, go for a walk. But step one is always to change the physiology, because it's nearly impossible to think our way into a more positive state. Like, oh, family dinner time is in 2 hours. What am I going to do? I'm pissed off because these 5 sales calls that didn't close, and rent is like, whatever the scenario is.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
how
Whatever.
are we going to show up to dinner? So being able to do what we can in that moment. But it's always been an interesting concept, because it gives people the power. That's the whole intent of everything. Give people the power where they don't think the power is in me and anyone else. Like, everybody has the power within them. They just need to remind themselves. They can build it up. And then from there, they have that clarity, and they're like, holy, this is what I can do. And then when I see that or if I see them cry on a call or in an in-person meeting, then I'm like, oh yeah, we hit deep on that one. My intent is not to make people cry, but when they do, I can tell something shifted internally.
Right. Well, you just can
That's
see,
good.
you can see the shift, and that's
Oh,
that's
yeah.
the whole purpose.
But it's because you deal with, I think, both the emotional and the physical at the same time. So you're really helping them to clear out those traumas and like work towards a better whoever they want to be or whatever their goals are.
Oh,
which
yeah.
that might be common, but I've spent a ridiculous amount of money on trainers and gym memberships and everything else, but I've never had anyone work on both. Like, I'm sitting here listening to you thinking I need to sign up for Derek's app or whatever it is, because you're speaking to my soul right now.
We're going to be calling you as soon as we get off the air.
4 new women.
I know, exactly. All
What
with
if
different issues.
So surprisingly, just to speak of that, is sometimes people ask, who do I work with the most? This wasn't by plan. Like, originally I planned to just work with male veterans, and then it just didn't go that way. I do have some, but I would say 80% of clients are females. The reason why, they're way more serious and focused. Like, my best success stories are majority females. Yes, I have amazing success stories of males,
Right.
but the ego and pride, I feel, is easier for women to put aside, because they're like, I just need structure. What do I do in the kitchen? What do I do in the grocery store? What do I do with my mind? Show me what to do and I can follow, and I need the support and accountability. Call me out if I need it. It's very straightforward. With guys,
You got to work through some more things. Yeah.
Exactly. I still love
that makes
it, but
sense.
it's different.
Yeah.
But that's
that
one
makes
thing I've
total
noticed
sense.
with the shift in society now, because it is what it is.
Yeah.
But to go back to what we were talking about, is one of my favorite quotes is, if the problem is in the mind, the solution is in the body. If the problem is in the mind, the solution is in the body. And if the problem is in the body, the solution is in the mind. So if you're stressed out mentally, move your body, go to nature, go swim, yell in your car, do whatever. You relax some, and then you can decide on what to do to solve the problem. if the problem is in the body, you got to think, okay, anxiety. Do I have anxiety or have I not eaten in a while? Oh yeah, I did drink too much wine last night. Oh yeah, I haven't eaten since yesterday dinner. You can start to pinpoint what it
Right.
is, because normally it's not quote unquote anxiety. It's real, but it's usually that person's dehydrated. They drank too much. They didn't eat, whatever it was. But giving that person the power back, like just self-assessment. Self-assessment is everything before they pop the pill. So I'm not
But
against
self-assessment, yeah, the whole mind body together, because a lot of people will go just straight like logical, and they like disregard the emotional or what their body is telling them. And to get those two to be holistic it can be a challenge.
And I think also we live in a society where you can take a pill for that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Like, I mean, your message is so on point because and that's what needs, like, more people need to hear this, because the environment and the culture and the world we live in is, oh, there's a pill for that.
Yeah.
You want to lose weight? There's a pill for that. Oh, you're anxious, you are depressed, or, you're working through trauma. Oh, there's a pill for that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, I mean, again, I feel like we're talking to Buddha here. This is amazing. I mean, because like Trisha was saying, like it's just one of those aha moments of the mind body connection.
Yeah.
You hear it said. I mean, that's not a term that we've just heard, but the way that you're describing it and you're putting it just in a way that I think the four of us, I mean, we all do different things. We have different backgrounds, whatever, but I can see right here, we're all tying into different things. And it has nothing to do with the new thing of take a pill for that or, whatever. So I think it's just fantastic. So yes, we're probably going to all be calling you.
I appreciate that. And my whole intent is just to go back to the basics. So like right now, I always tell my buddies, they're like, oh, I'm taking an ice bath. I'm taking a cold shower. I'm doing that. I'm like, hey, that's great. Show me your schedule of how consistent you've been with workouts, eating and all that. And they're just like, well, so life gets rough. And I'm like, don't tell me about your ice bath. Like your ice bath is not going to take care of the past 60 days where you're drinking Bud Light. Right. So I just look at these things because it does work. All these things are popular, but I just remind people, I'm like, everything that's trending right now is trending for a reason. One, the guy or the woman is trying to sell some stuff.
Yep.
Two, they're trying to push their extreme ideology, eat liver because vegetables are bad, or eat vegetables because meat is bad. Whatever it is, to each their own.
Right.
I just look at it as, can you train this way for the rest of your life? Can you eat this way for the rest of your life? Can you think this way for the rest of your life? Like, we can't be gung-ho alpha male, alpha female 24/7 and just kill our relationships. And we can't be on the other side where we're just like crying all the time. So a lot of these pages and influencers or gurus are just like pushing extreme ideologies.
Yes.
Each your own, but it confuses people. So that's one thing that I do notice when I speak to people at first. I ask them, which one of the three things do you struggle with the most? One, discipline. Do you go hard for 2 weeks, 1 month, and then you kind of lose that fire? Is it your environment, your spouse, your friends, your family? They drink too much. They bring around the pizzas. They invite you to the brunch. They don't invite you to the gym or to the hiking weekend. Like, they always invite you to places where you're going to do the vices. And then three could be knowledge, information overload. We open up TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. Everybody's saying, don't do this, don't do that. And then they're like, what the hell do I do for my situation?
Exactly.
Right.
Everybody says this is terrible. Like, do I eat lettuce? Do I drink water? Or do I just fast? Like, everything's going to kill me nowadays.
Yeah, it's so true. Oh my God. Unfortunately.
So when you work with a client, do you is it weekly? How long do you usually work with a client? How does that work?
So the main two durations of the programs are usually 12 weeks, so 3 months, or 16 weeks, 4 months. It all depends on their goal and where they're at. So I do nothing shorter than then, because 3 months, somebody's whole life and trajectory of their mentality can shift.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I don't say that verbally, but I can just tell once we pinpoint some things and we work on it. And then from there, we hop on calls. So we'll be on Zoom and we have weekly calls. So the first 5 to 10 minutes, we talk about food, nutrition. Hey, my back is kind of tight. I'll show you some stretches. The rest of the call of the hour and a half is all mindset. And I'm transparent from day one. And I show them the layout. I give them some options, whatever works for them. And if I can't help them, I tell them, I'm like, hey, I'm not the guy. I know somebody, or hey, I follow this individual, reach out to them. Right. And people are always caught off guard. They're like, wait, you're telling me to go away? And I'm like, yeah, I've never worked with anyone that does this. So can't really help.
You're being,
and they're just like,
you're being honest.
Oh, wow, this is real. I'm like, I'm not, I'm just telling you.
Yeah.
So I just am old school about it, just fully transparent. And they're just like, man, nobody's ever said that or made me think of these things. So that's my whole intent, is to get somebody to think of their situation. I show them some options. What would you like to do? If you want to, awesome. If not, cool. Here are hundreds of males and females that have done it. If that doesn't pertain to you, awesome. Hope you find the right person. So I'm just like black and white about it. But yes, so it's 12 weeks or 16 weeks, depending on their goal. And then from there, they can decide if they need to continue. But my whole intent is to give them the tools, the resources, and the knowledge so they can maintain their results long term.
Yeah.
I don't have like a locked in rate where I'm like, oh yeah, we're set for the year unless somebody asks for that. But it's more so for them to see their power. That's the whole intent, where they're like, wow, our time is already up. We're coming up to 3 months. I mean, I feel great, but
do I have to go?
Or on the flip side, they're like, wow, I feel amazing. Like, I know what to do in most areas, and I didn't realize the impact that was happening. And that's always my favorite part, is during the holidays. Like, I tell my girlfriend during the holidays, we'll be with her family or with my family, and I just scroll on Facebook, Instagram. We check people's profile. I'm like, hey, you remember Jimmy from 2 years ago? He's in a new house. She got married. She's on her first date in 5 years. She is over the social anxiety. She can shop in Target without being on the phone with her best friend because she feels like all those moments that people don't really post about. Those are my favorite moments, because it's fulfilling.
Yeah, the moments to celebrate. Yeah.
They're the wins.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. So you do coaching. You said you have an app. Can you tell us about your app a little bit? Because I'm ready to sign up.
Yeah, for sure. So my app is called Fit with Derek. So it's not open to the public. It's just for clients. But essentially, you have a training calendar. And depending on what somebody's goal is, I would put the exercises. So today is Wednesday. So let's just say Thursday, somebody has core and cardio. They would have 5 to 7 exercises. They would see a tutorial video of myself explaining how to do it, and they follow the reps or sets. It could be at home, in the gym, or outdoors. It's all up to them. And then from there, besides that, we track their meals, and then we hold each other accountable in the app. Everybody has a friend that we message in 5 different apps or texting, and you're like, what are we doing? We're sending memes here. We're in a group chat here, and we're doing that. So I just tell them, please stick with the app. We're going to stay in one place so you can scroll up and find everything.
Yeah. Keep it
so
simple.
And then number 2, we just hop on Zoom or on the phone if they're busy or whatever. And then we do weekly to bi-weekly calls, depending on what they need. It all depends on the person. And that's when we dive deeper. So fitness, nutrition happens in the app. And then on our one-on-one calls, that's where the quote unquote magic happens mentally, where we break those barriers of the patterns. They get some clarity, and that's all it is.
That's amazing.
Amazing. Yeah.
So I'll tell you, like I said, I've worked with a lot of trainers, and I've never seen anyone have so much of a tie with mind and body. Yeah. So I think it's amazing. And we've really enjoyed our time with you tonight. I'm definitely going to post your information so others can have access to you and find out how to get more information, because I think it's awesome what you do.
I know. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you so much.
Yes. It's been a pleasure. I can't believe we've talked for an hour.
Good to meet you.
But yeah, I kept looking at the timer up there. I was like, all right, I need to start ranting, because I just get passionate about stuff.
No, I mean, seriously, like I feel like it's only been about 15 minutes. You know, again, thank you for your service, but also, I mean, more importantly, thank you for what you do.
Yeah,
I mean, it's great.
Thank you.
Making a difference.
Thank you. Thank you. The last thing I just want to leave people with is become the man or woman that you would be proud of. Become the man or woman that you would be proud of, and give him or her to the world. Become the man or woman that you would be proud of, and give him or her to the world. Everybody's selfish to an extent. So if you wake up tomorrow wanting to hit snooze, not wanting to train, whatever you don't want to do, think of your kids, your grandma, the worst thing all those people have been through. You'll get a rush, and you'll show up like another person.
Oh, I just got chills.
Yeah. Okay. What a way to leave it.
Oh my gosh.
That was awesome.
So thank you again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes.
Take care.
Thank you so much, Derek.
Bye.
I appreciate it.
Bye.
What a freaking amazing human.
He was.
I mean, I really did feel like we were talking to Buddha, not the religious Buddha, whatever, but the calming, such like, someone's amazing when their energy comes through the airwaves.
Yeah.
I think the coolest thing about him is we've talked to life coaches, we talked to personal trainers. I've never seen one put it all together as much as he does.
It's important.
He really was like a fitness Buddha.
I'm telling you, he's an old soul.
Yeah.
I mean, again, you guys, at the age of 12, He was listening to cassette tapes. I mean, that's...
Well, we were listening to cassette tapes too, but not Tony Robbins.
Mine was Top Gun.
Mine was
you.
Prince.
Thank you. Top Gun. Oh, mine was also
Madonna.
George Michael.
George Michael.
I Want Your Sex. Loved it. Thought I was such a badass. So, I mean, that's what I'm saying is that 12-year-old, again, I just go back to, I think he's an old soul and I think he's amazing. And I cannot wait to actually listen to this episode
again
myself
and again
and again.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what Lisa said too is really important. If we could have more people and coaches and people in our kids' lives and our lives who look at it as a holistic, change versus just a simple, just go work out. Like you said, you go to trainers and they're like, do this and do that.
Well, no, it's like 1,000%. Because if you think about teachers, they are with your child more than you are.
Oh, I know.
So they're with your child every single day. And I would say most of them pay attention, and you are going to see the child who is struggling, who is just living inside themselves. And, again, it goes back to that English teacher that just took him outside and was like, hey, it's okay to be human, right?
Yeah, that's what he said, yeah.
So, so for all of those educators out there that are listening, continue, make a difference.
I was just thinking about, I have to shout out Miss Dunn, Miss Bogue, Miss Yancey, who's passed away, and Miss Higgins, that have all been really impactful educators in my life.
Oh, yeah, there's so many though. If you think about
it, because they can make such a huge difference.
Really coaches and teachers,
yeah,
and mentors. All the time.
Well, here's to self-care and caring about others.
I know,
Cheers.
and I mean, seriously, you guys, we all need to be on that boot camp, and we're all gonna. Let's just go to Panama.
Thank you for joining the ladies of the Middle Ageish podcast as they journey through the ups and downs of this not young, but definitely not old season of life. To hear past episodes or make suggestions for future episodes, visit www.middleageish.com. That's www.middleageish.com. You can follow along on social media at Middle Ageish. Also, if you have a moment to leave a review, rate, and subscribe, that helps others find the show, and we greatly appreciate it. Once again, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll catch you in the next episode of the Middle Ageish podcast.